Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we're going to take a look at a couple of bottles of whiskey that we picked up while we were on the trail in Kentucky at distilleries. And we will ask the question, are these single barrels worth picking up at the distilleries in Kentucky? Run the video. All right then, folks, thank you for joining us for another new and exciting episode here where we get to taste some really awesome whiskey. Well, hopefully, we don't quite know yet. So these are some bottles of whiskey that you can see in front of you that I picked up at distilleries on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. There's also one more. It was this Maker's Mark pick, but this was a bottle that I cracked open whilst I was on the trip. This cost $75 at the Maker's Mark distillery. And I can tell you from the get-go, this was definitely worth it. This was the Spring Berry Crumble bottle. This is from March of 2024. They had it during, I think it was August, towards the back end of the year. That bottle was definitely worth it. I would also say mostly all the Maker's Mark picks that they do at the distillery there are definitely going to be worth it. So if you need to ask yourself that question, always pick up those Maker's Mark single barrel picks there. However, we have 6 bottles in front of us. We're going to start with the Woodford Reserve Blended Malt, move into Bardstown Bourbon Company Small Batch Stay Finish, a Four Roses Private Barrel Selection, a Wild Turkey Private Selection, single barrel, an interesting one then by James Beam, and that is going to be the Extended Fermentation bottle. And then we also have the Elijah Craig Barrel Select Barrel bottle. So these are all unique to the distilleries there in Kentucky, and you're not able to get these specific single barrels anywhere else. And this fermentation distiller share, it doesn't say that it was necessarily a single barrel, although I asked and they said that it was. So that's why we're doing this on today's episode. So let's dive first into the Woodford Reserve. And I have the receipt for all of these, so we know exactly how much we paid for them. And as a general rule of thumb, I would say that all these selections are a little bit more pricier at the distilleries than if you were to maybe get them from your local stores. So this bottle, the Blender's Malt, is a 375 milliliter bottle, or a pint-sized bottle, as some folks might say. And this did cost $65. So that's a lot of money. So that's basically, you're paying $130 for a full-size bottle of this. So let's go in for nose here. And I have opened this bottle up a little bit. And I must preference this by saying I'm not a big malted whiskey guy. I don't mind some malted rye, but like malted blended whiskeys are generally not my thing. And just kind of nosing this is very like grainy, almost very youthful on the nose. Not really too much going for it, and maybe a little cherry, maybe a little sweetness. But it's not really easy on the nose, it's quite sharp. And for a $65 or $130 bottle of whiskey, it's definitely lacking on nose. Let's go in for a taste here. Again, quite bready on the palate, a little savory as well. You can think of it as more of that graininess coming through. When the sweetness, almost like a brown sugar sweetness on the front there, when that kind of goes away, you're left with a lot of that malt graininess there. This bottle isn't for me, so straight off the bat, if we're saying should you pick this bottle up, yes or no, this is a definite no from me. I think it's overpriced. I think the whiskey is just not that good. Yes, they want to get some bottles at the distillery that is unique to Woodford, but for me, I think that they just missed the mark on this one. I will also be cleansing my palate between each one and giving it a little bit of time as well. So let's move into the second bottle, and that is the one from Bardstown Bourbon Company. This is the Small Batch Stave Finish. A traditional Bardstown bottle. They're all pretty nice bottles here. That gives us a little bit of what the blend is on the side here. So 48% is from Georgia. They're 8-year Georgian whiskey that they source from Georgia, which is 80% corn, 10% rye, 5% wheat, and then 5% malted barley. Next is 26% of their own Bardstown distillate of 5 years old, 70% corn, 18% rye, and 12% malted barley. Then 20% Kentucky distillate that is 4 years old with exactly the same distillate. And then 6% Kentucky, which is 12 years old, 78% corn, 10% rye, and then 12% malted barley. So it does have some, so on average, 54% of this distillate is 8 years or older, but then it does have 46% that is 5 years or younger. So a bit of a blend. We'll see how that younger distillate kind of mares with the older. So I paid $65 for this. So the same price as the Woodford Malted Rye, but again in a full bottle this time. So let's go in for a nose here, and I haven't tried any of these bottles apart from the Malted Rye, which I tried a little while ago. A little more easier on the nose, definitely sweeter, definitely more cornier. Didn't really get any corn on the nose on the Woodford. I'm not comparing these, I'm just kind of using that as a base. Definitely a cola vibe going on here, like an old school cola vibe. Maybe a touch like bubblegum there as well, that kind of cherry candy bubblegum. Not really much youthfulness coming through, if I'm completely honest. Really nice amount of new charred American oak. A little bit of toastedness there as well. Maybe a caramel popcorn vibe going on. Really present, really approachable so far. Let's go in for a taste here. So it does carry a little bit more proof on the palate than what I was expecting. What is the proof on this one? So this is only 47% ABV or 94 proof. The malted was 45.2% ABV or 90.4 proof, if you wanted to know. But for 47% ABV or 94 proof, it's a little hotter than what I was expecting. Maybe that's some of the younger distillate in this. I haven't had much Georgian whiskey. My only real kind of experience with Georgian whiskey, or Georgia, I should say. Is it Georgian? I wonder. I know European Georgia, you would say Georgian. So I wonder if that's the same for this state. So if I'm mispronouncing that, you'll have to give me a pass on that. But there is 48% of the Georgia whiskey in this. And my only experience with that has been 13th Colony, but the whiskey that I've had from them is actually sourced from MGP. So technically, I'm not sure if I've had Georgia whiskey. However, with this one, like I said, maybe more sweetness, maybe more cherry vibes here. Let's go for another taste. Not much of that, if any of that aged distillate is coming through there. There's a little tannin note at the front of my palate, but all in all, it's kind of a little bit more youthful as well. I would put this in the ballpark of like a 5-6 here. It can be a little bit tricky, even if you have older distillate, that when you introduce really young distillate, just because of how spiky and proofy that can be, it can sometimes take over a whiskey. In terms of toasted notes, I feel like that maybe helps it out a little bit here on this one. So if we're asking the question, for $65, should you buy this bottle? I do think so. I've had some Bardstone stuff already before, and I think that this is a little bit different, and I think that kind of Georgia whiskey kind of helps with that as well. A lot of Kentucky sweetness in terms of like the corn and kind of like popcorn note. So I do think this is pretty unique to Kentucky, and I kind of like that blend with the Georgia whiskey. So for $65, I would buy this one. So let's cleanse our palate and move into the Four Roses. Okay, so the Four Roses Private Barrel Select, which I was really happy that I was able to find. This is coming in at 62% ABV or 124 proof. So on the higher end of these Four Roses Private Barrel Selects, which looks like that. This is going to be barrel number 13-5E, so tier 5, and this is going to be the OESQ mash bill, which is the 20% rye mash bill, bottled in May of 2024, 9 years and 2 months old. This is definitely going to be one of the more expensive ones on this kind of tasting category here, and this costs $99, which is about $10 more than MSRP here in Colorado. But for only $10 for this bottle, which is normally a hard bottle to get, I would say that's okay. That's okay. They usually have different bottles and different picks and different tiers at the distillery, so it might be different from when you go, but however, this is the one that we're going to be doing. I was very happy that it is 62% ABV, 120 proof, because I think this might be the highest ABV bottle that I have as a private barrel select. Let's go in for a nose here. So usually, these Four Roses picks are usually quite rye spicy. Four Roses is generally like that for me anyway. However, I'm doing like a little bit of like aged musty wood on this one. Like I said, it is 9.5 years, give or take. But it's definitely like nosing more of like an Elijah Craig 18, more oak tannin-y, more kind of musty rickhouse, that kind of nosy note that you get when you walk into an old Kentucky rickhouse. Like that dusty smell. Apart from that, not too much sweetness popping off. Maybe almost like a grapey, like a purple grape note coming through there. Like a grape, like Welch's grape juice, I guess, is what I'm thinking here. Let's go in for a taste. I don't know if I'm just attaching myself to that grape note, but I definitely get more of that. And there's quite a bit more heat with this too. Almost like a peppery heat right at the front of the tongue. Really great mouthfeel on this. It's really rich. You can almost hear it in my voice. It's kind of hitting me there, and that's kind of where my voice is staying. A lot of that oak tannin, musty wood is on this bottle. I think this is a really traditional representation in my own experience of a lot of Four Roses private barrel selects, a lot of like that musty wood, and then kind of maybe some of that sweetness, but a lot of oak tannins and some of that rye and bacon spices, and you're definitely going to get that. If you like Four Roses, and you like these Four Roses picks, then I definitely think that this would be a pickup for you. So $100, yes, it's expensive, $10 more than MSRP, but it is tier 5, it is proof heavy. I would say this is a yes from me every day of the week. We were able to pick this one up at the Clermont location, which is like close to the Jim Beam distillery, which we picked that up for, which we'll go in for a little bit more later. Let's move on from this one, and then we'll delve into the Wild Turkey Private Barrel Select. All right, so this Private Barrel Select is coming in at 50.5% ABV or 101 proof. Looks a little like that. Updated, new design. This is going to be Warehouse TY-B on floor 4 for everybody who wants to know. The age on this is going to be about, so it was distilled March of 2015 and then bottled July of 2024, so about 9.5 years. That's a good amount of age, more than what I was expecting, truth be told. And of course, the 50.5% or 101 proof. How much did we pay at this, guys? So we bought this at the distillery in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, just after we went to the Four Roses distillery, and that was $80. So this is a lot more than what I would like to pay. I would say out of all the bottles on here, in terms of markup of price, I would say probably this one has kind of the first place for that, if you like. I would say these more in Colorado, you're going to be paying about $50 to $55. So it was a lot of money. It wasn't really a special bottle of any kind, but it was one of their Spirit private barrel picks. So this has a lot to live up for. Let's go in for a nose here. So lately, this year specifically, 2024, I've been getting a lot more into Wild Turkey. Yeah, I enjoyed them when I was, a few years ago, but this year's for me has been like the year of Wild Turkey and Russells. But I have to say from the get-go, there's not really anything special jumping out of the glass so far. Not really any heat, more wood, more like bacon spices, maybe like clove and cinnamon there. I wouldn't say rye spices necessarily. Maybe a little bit of musty wood, some oak tannins too, like on the Four Roses one. Maybe like a cherry candy note there, like a sugar coated cherry candy would be the best way to describe this. But it's not too intense. I'm really finding it hard. I'm really looking for flavors here. Maybe a little buttery there as well, a little honeysuckle, like a butterscotch too. But still, subdued. I'm really fighting hard to get these flavors here. Let's see what the palate's like. Let's go in for a taste. A lot more oak tannins hitting my palate here. I am getting like a yeasty note there too. And then definitely a lot more cherry and spice hitting the palate here. For 9 years old, I would say that it doesn't drink as old as the Four Roses, but there's definitely the age there too. I would say the palate is much better than the nose. The nose is really flat. They kind of kicked up a little bit on the palate here. So for $80, I'm gonna say that's probably a pass. I would say that you're better off probably just getting like a rare breed instead for about $60. I wouldn't say that this was worth it. Yes, it had that extra little bit of age that you might not find on these bottles. However, for $80, not worth it for me. I would say don't get that one. That's a bit of a pass there. Let's move into the last two bottles. So this next one is fairly unique. Like I was saying earlier on, this is from the James Beam distillery, and this is the Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey Extended Fermentation. The fermentation time is 5 days extra. So when they're fermenting the grain to kind of make beer, if you like, before they distill it. So add an extra 5 days, or the fully extra fermentation time is 5 days. So I'm not sure what that will be regularly and how extra that is. This is going to be 6 years old. This was released in the summer of 2024. 108 proof or 54% ABV, and this again is a pint-sized bottle, like the Woodford Reserve. And this is going to be price-wise. This is costing us $75. So more than what the Woodford was for the pint. So if you think that this is as a 750 milliliter bottle, that's going to be $150. A lot of money, and truth be told, more than what I thought that I was paying for it. However, let's go in for a nose here. This is very almost hay. Like you go into like a barn, not a bar. You go into like a barn on a farm that is kind of sitting with a lot of hay in the barn. This kind of has a little bit of that, almost like a barnyardy smell without the barnyard musk, if you like. Very corn forward. Yeah, like caramel corn, like those Halloween candies almost. A real butteriness to there as well. Honestly, smelling a little bit youthful and a little bit crafty almost. Let's go in for a taste. Wow. Not sure what to make of this. Really great mouthfeel. Really long finish. Really sweet off the bat. Then that transitions into more heat and more spice. I wouldn't say necessarily that I'm getting more of those yeasty notes or much more of that hay type note or crafty note. I would say this is more of like a corn whiskey tasting. This is a bourbon whiskey. It does say that it's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It doesn't say that there's anything special in regards to the mash bill on this one. Maybe this is just like the regular way that they make Jim Beam, and then they just extend the fermentation and then they bottle it at a higher proof. A lot more rich on the mouthfeel, a lot more complete and well balanced, more wood, more sweetness, really nice all around. I was really expecting the worst on the nose here. However, the palate definitely delivered, but we need to ask the question for $75. Is this worth getting for a pint-sized bottle, so $150 for a bottle? I would take a pass on that. I would definitely not get this again. Like I said, for that sort of price, you really want to blow your socks off. Although the palate did get better, I thought that the nose let it down. Then let's move on to the last one, which is this one, known as the Grenades, for those of you who visit High Heaven Hill Distillery. This is 125 proof or 62.5% ABV, the Elijah Craig Barrel Select Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So, story has it that they pick some barrels there at Heaven Hill, proof it always down to 125 proof or 62.5% ABV. People will say that this is some of the better Elijah Craig stuff that you can find. What did we pay for this? So like I said, this is obviously a smaller bottle. The size of this one, I believe, is 200 milliliters. I can't seem to find it on here. So yes, they are 200 milliliter bottles. I was right. So 200 milliliter bottle for $30 is what we are dealing with. Well, I do like Elijah Craig stuff. Some of the stuff can be a little bit overpriced for like the 8-year private barrels. However, we will see what this is like though. My favorite one in recent times has been the B520. The C923 was also very good too. Let's go in for a nose. Definitely. Straight off the bat, the best nose of the evening. Really rich. Almost kind of has like a little bit of a celery, a dill note, like savory note there. Which is something that I've got from a recent Elijah Craig that I've tried, the Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel, which is interesting. Really some really nice fruity raisin date notes there as well. Brown sugars, darker charred toasted notes, maybe a little marshmallow. Really presents really well in the glass. Full of flavor, very bright, aromatic. Let's go in for a taste here. I'm very excited about this one. Wow, great mouthfeel. Again, more of those fruit flavors. Plum, fig notes coming through, raisins, dark chocolates, maybe a little bit of an espresso note there as well. Really rich on the mouthfeel, very oily, very tasty. Definitely the best tasting bottle and nosing bottle on this list. We paid $30 for it as a buy every day. Yes, you're going to be paying around 100 plus for a full size bottle, $120 or so. 120, yeah, I would say that's around about right. Would I buy these again? Yeah, they're only $30, so you can kind of pay a little bit more when you're only paying $30 for it. It would be nice if they could do this exact distillate in a bigger bottle for like $90. That would be my preference. However, that is definitely a buy again. So no, yes, no, yes. So I think we had 50% here. Oh yeah, and yes on the maker's mark as well, that's buy every day. So we went to Kentucky, we bought a bunch of these single barrels to bring home back down here in the Whiskey Cove to ask the question, should you be paying this amount of money at the distilleries for these specific single barrels? And the answer is yes and no, I guess. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video as we drink through all the world's whiskeys, one glass at a time. Cheers.